so much at this little bike, and it just keeps going. He's the Brompton Guy! What an incredible bike we've built. I hope that trailer's helped do it justice, and in a moment I'm going to break down into nitty-gritty detail what we have done, added and modified to this bike. Before I get into that detail, please do me a massive favour, smash that like button, and if you've been enjoying the content, please consider subscribing to the channel. We're currently on the grind to 1,000 subscribers, and all the support you've shown me just now has been great, so please continue that support. But now that that message is out of the way, let's break down what is involved in this new M Line Brompton. So first and foremost, let's start at the front of the bike. At the front, we have the original handlebar still that has not been changed yet. But if we come out of that, the first addition we have on here is the Ergon GP4 handlebar grip. I've picked this because it gives me a really nice natural feel on the bike itself for road use. But one of the things this could go to is a flat bar that's longer to really help it in the off-road terrain. The next massive improvement that we've added is the Dior XT hydraulic disc lines. These brakes in the testing have been phenomenal, and the stopping power is honestly just astronomical. Like, it's not even comparable to what the rim brake itself did, but there will be an additional video to show the braking difference between the 160 disc rotors and the original rim brake design. So we now hit our first piece of the puzzle for the Di2 here. We come to junction box A, which for this build I have picked the Shimano Dior XT SC MT 800 module here. I've picked the Dior XT mainly because when we go through the theme of the bike, most of it is built with the Dior XT components. Okay, moving further up right to that is the right shifter. The shifter I've picked for this build is the Shimano Dior XT SW M8050. The reason I've picked the 8050 is because for the size of my hands and where it sits on the bar design I have, is incredibly practical for shifting. On the test rides I've done on it so far, it really has proved to be one of the better shifters for this design and handlebar shape. Now that we're done with the handlebar section, let's follow down the stem. The stem itself is still original to the bike. I just sent it for repainting at the same time as the front forks and the rear triangle, so nothing special to quote on there. But we do come down to the custom fork, which we've already covered in detail. So one of the next big changes on the bike is the front wheel itself. As we've already covered, we built the wheel by scratch. We picked the Halo T2 rim. We have the Dior XT front hub, and we have the quick release on the front of the bike. We then have our hydraulic brake line coming down to our Dior XT hydraulic caliper and a Shimano Dior XT front 160 disc. All of this stuff together just makes the front end really, really neat, and overall just looks like a great compact design. I do want to just give a quick mention to the Schwalbe Smart Sam tyre that we have fitted on this bike. This bike has now been on its first off-road test, and these tyres performed absolutely amazingly. I do myself still have some work to do to understand tyre pressures on this size of tyre, but I've got to give kudos to where it is, and in such a small bike, these tyres were absolutely phenomenal. Coming across the bike itself, we have the original 2004 main frame from the bike, so this is still an original part on it itself. But the one thing I really like about the Di2 system is we lose a lot of the clutter of the cabling. So what we have here is we have one hydraulic line, and we have the one Di2 cable coming back up to junction box A, combined in this heat shrink tubing just to create the one yellow vein shooting down to the rear of the bike. It makes it look incredibly clean, and if that could somehow be mounted in the frame, which it's not going to be, it would just look so much cleaner as an overall bike. Okay, so one of the other additions here is the 42 tooth chain ring, which is a 172.5mm crank arm on it, and it's made by a company called Marida. Now, this was originally bought for the Dragon Ride itself, but on something that's designed to go off-road also, having 42 or smaller on the front does make sense, because as I'll cover later, the rear cassette on the back is going to be fixed to an 18 tooth, so you know you can't have any play on that side there. Okay, pedal itself, we have the Shimano Ultegra R8000. I have said in many videos, the biggest upgrade I feel you can do to serious Brompton riding is putting a set of clipless pedals on. I wouldn't say I've got a specific brand or anything, I'd be like, this is the one that makes it better, but just being able to really pull up that power really does make a difference. One of the biggest ways I can tell that is when I took this on its first test ride, my left cleat had worn out and I couldn't stay clipped into the bike. I was coming off all the time because I couldn't really get out max power over the loose stone and terrain. Right, I think it's also worth to note that when I originally got the bike, the bottom bracket was replaced out also, just for a standard Brompton bottom bracket. When we come to the seat post itself, we obviously have the telescopic seat post. Now, as I've said in multiple videos, and it continues to be an issue, especially when I'm going over rougher terrain, the seat post itself just does not stay clamped. I'm going to do full investigation into this because it is actually starting to really hinder my rides now and create pain in my legs because I'm not in optimal position. But it's why I opted for the telescopic seat post, because the extended fitted me just fine as 6'2", but having the telescopic allows me to do that little micro adjustments at the top, which just gives me some extra play to have, and I will take that all day long. We then have the Physique Aliante R3 Evo seat, which I've used all the time. This has been my preference of seat for a while, mainly because I don't get much discomfort on it, so I've stuck with that. But these seats are notorious for cracking in the middle, so what I'm trialing at the moment is having it on the lower rung of the Penta lock, so that it gives it some support within the flex, so if it does crack, it's not going to just keep going all the way down and create it even worse. So I'm seeing how that's getting on just now. Moving on to the suspension, I've still kept my trusted Joseph Cusack firm suspension. I did take this out on the trail, and again, because I don't have much experience swapping them out, it actually felt fine, and I suppose the more you abuse it, then it is still going to give you that shock. But I do feel if I was to put something softer on it, it may actually help with the trail experience for the fact we have no suspension up at the front. We have the dog ears here, so obviously these are very different from the wheel itself. All this is for when the Brompton's folded, it can sit nicely on the deck. It has no other function apart from that. From a chain perspective, I cannot remember the model number, but I've went with the Shimano Ultegra chain for this. Obviously, you can predominantly use any chain on this now that we're not really fixed to Brompton lengths or anything like that. And then obviously we have the modified rear triangle itself here. So we've obviously covered that in the video beforehand, which is what allows us to put these larger tyres on. At the back also, we get the 20-inch Halo T2 rim. We've currently got the Smart Sam tyre fitted. We have the original Brompton tensioner, but as also covered, this had to be modified to make way for the Di2 modules at the back here. So another part of the Di2 technology on here is the motor unit itself. This is what enables the gear change itself to happen. For this build itself, we are using the Shimano MU S705B motor. There is two different style of motor units, but this one seems to work absolutely fine, and I've had absolutely no issues with it whatsoever. So behind the motor unit, we have the initial sprocket that attaches onto the Di2 hub. The sprocket of choice for this, and the only option that I believe at this point you can fit to it, is the Shimano Alpine CSS 500 single sprocket on there. It works absolutely fine and does the job it's supposed to do. As I say, I did experiment with the 20 tooth and covered that in another video, but it causes all kinds of issues for the chain tension if you go up to the larger size single sprocket at the back there. As also covered, we have the Shimano Alpine hub at the back here. So this is the Shimano Alpine 11-speed Di2 32-hole model. It is the original model and not the revised one, so apparently this does have issues with oil leakage, so I'll check that over time and see how we get on with it there. Right, while I've got a shot of the rear of the bike, I just wanted to highlight what was going on with the Di2 setup on this side of the bike here. So coming down from the main vane itself through the M8000's hydraulic brake cable, we've got a little cutout in it which then joins into junction box B down here. So what we have here is this cable itself is the Shimano Di2 wire from junction box A, which is an EWSD50, and the length I've specified it in is 140 millimeters, and it fits absolutely perfectly for where I want it. As I say, we then go into junction box B. Junction box B itself is a Shimano SM JC41. Now this is rated to be internal into the tubes. Obviously there's no way I can really mount it internally here, so I'm riding with it on here to see how we get on. You can get blanking ports to help protect it on that side, but I've also heat shrinked it up to just give it the best protection I can. We then also have the Shimano EWSD50 cable coming into here and another one coming in from here. So this cable goes up to the battery itself. The battery is the SMBTR1, and that's a 600mm run to join in here and another 600mm run to join the motor unit at the back there. And there you have it, a phenomenal build on a vintage Brompton. I can say with confidence I don't believe there's any other mountain Di2 Bromptons, so this could be a one of one in the world, and I'm looking forward to continue to put it through its paces. I feel it's important to note that the only original parts to highlight again is the main frame of the Brompton, the stem and the handlebars. Everything else here is brand new to it, so it practically is a brand new bike. But with a brand new bike always has big costs, so one of the biggest questions surely is, how much does this conversion cost? Now that itself will get its own video, and that will come out after this one, because there's various factors to what can drive cost and how to best do it. For instance, the main frame, I already had to invest 500 into the old bike, but you can sell parts of that to recoup some of your losses, and the only other non-negotiable is the front forks and the rear triangle, which we already know cost 790 to get. But I will break down where I've got all my parts from, where I've managed to save money, and how you can potentially save money when you do the build yourself on there. Now, I really would love this video to get traction, and I would love it to go back to Will Butler Adams, because I know he can make this bike, but I also know Brompton as a company will never ever make this bike. The one thing I think this bike does have is sex appeal. I do believe a lot of standard Bromptons are going to appeal to an older demographic, which is absolutely fine, but I think this is a way for Brompton, even though it's incredibly unpractical for city riding and over the top, this is something that's going to appeal to a younger market because it just has way more sex appeal. People love the look of the chunky tyres, and it's something that I'm curious to take. So my plan with this is to take both my original Brompton and this Brompton to the streets and get people's feedback for it. So if you're interested in that type of content, that will be coming up soon on the channel. So here's hoping it follows what I think my head will say on it. But as always, thank you so much for tuning into The Brompton Guy. Your support has been amazing, and thank you for following me on this amazing project. I cannot wait to keep doing content on it. And if there is anything you want to see or any questions you have around the build, shoot them in the comment section. I'll be sure to get back to you. But as of now, enjoy your night, and thank you so much for watching.